Hey y'all, it's John Trent from Batting Into Comics, and I found the woke take of the day, possibly even the take of the week. CBR writer Dani Prince claims Hollywood still won't let female superheroes exist in the present. Yup, that's the headline, and that is the gist of her argument. But before we get further into it, I'd like to ask if you could please hit the subscribe button. By subscribing, you help more people see our videos and help us keep making these videos. We're aiming to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of March. With your help, we can definitely do it. So thank you in advance for subscribing. And if you've already subscribed, thank you so much. So let's get into this. Given this is CBR, it's hard to expect there to be any kind of truth to their opinion articles. And by that I mean when they're providing evidence to explain their opinion, they don't provide any truth in that evidence. And this article once again confirms that. In the second paragraph, Prince claims, quote, "Even before the release of Marvel's Captain Marvel, fans were rating Rotten Tomatoes and intentionally giving it a low rating, leaving it with a whopping 45% audience score compared to the critics' score of 78%. So she's not only lying in this, but she's also, it has nothing to do with the actual headline of her article. You could say that she's trying to set the stage, but I just see this as her trying to attack fans. We'll get to that in a little bit because she does do that. But let's just talk about this sentence here. The sentence itself is pretty idiotic. By attempting to claim having a high critic score and a low audience score is something abnormal. It's not. It happens all the time. Look at all the Star Wars movies that Disney's released in the trilogy. However, Prince's claim that fans were rating the score is a lie as well. It's not surprising given CBR lied about the film being review bombed at the time. So if you recall, people weren't actually rating the film. They were indicating whether or not they were interested in the film. As you can clearly see, it was a want to see score. It's clearly written out, want to see. It appears Prince can't read, is playing dumb, or is intentionally lying. My bet is on the latter. This is CBR. This want to see score would eventually be removed from Rotten Tomatoes following Rage Piece's lying and whining about the score at CBR, The Hollywood Reporter, comicbook.com, comicbookmovie.com, and others. We've got the full story up on Bounding Into Comics, and I'll have the link in the description below if you want to check that out. So if the first sentence in the second paragraph wasn't enough to show you how utterly stupid this article is, by the end of the paragraph, Prince is trotting out the worn down line that, quote, that pop culture and superhero fan communities have become overwhelmingly toxic. I take that back. It's not really worn down because it aptly applies to Prince. She is poisonous to fandom, as is clearly seen by her lies in this article, which we've already got in the second paragraph, and I'll break it down further as we go along. However, she's not talking about herself. She adds, quote, but when a new female superhero emerges into the pop culture scene, suddenly it's all hands on deck for fans to criticize or even bully content creators. End quote. I can't even tell you how ridiculously stupid this is, not to mention it's just another lie. You only have to look at Alita Battle Angel. Fans rallied around the film, the creators, and the character. Heck, they just paid for a plane to fly over the Oscars asking for an Alita sequel. That is not something that people would do when it's all hands on deck for fans to criticize or even bully content creators. It's the exact opposite. Exact opposite. This woman is just full of lies. Nevertheless, Prince continues on her tour of lies. She writes, quote, female-led superhero movies are far and few between, with the only female-led films in the current DC and Marvel Cinematic Universes being Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel, and now Black Widow and Birds of Prey. It appears she forgot Ant-Man and the Wasp, Justice League, Avengers, Age of Ultron, Infinity War, Endgame, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, and Wonder Woman 1984, which is coming up. She did include Black Widow, so why wouldn't we include Wonder Woman 1984 as well? You could even argue all of the Captain America films and Thor as well, or do those films not count because female characters share the lead with male characters, or because all of them don't have a female character in the title? I'll have to double check the current woke definition of female lead when I never see it. The lies just continue. It's not just that Prince thinks there aren't enough female-led films. She takes issue with how female characters are treated in the films. She writes, Quote, in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, the MCU killed off most notably both Gamora and Black Widow for the recurring trope of man pain. End quote. You know who else died in Infinity War and Endgame? Iron Man, Vision, Loki, and Heimdall. Holy crap. It's double the amount of women. It's so shocking. I mean, yeah, it's just, it's just so obvious. I mean, I don't think she's actually watched the film, and we'll get these movies, and we'll get into that a little bit later with some proof from her article. That's how horrible this article really is. We're just at the tip of the iceberg right now. So Prince does finally get to her main argument after she's already accrued a mountain of lies here. She writes, quote, most spectacularly, however, is that all of these female-led superhero films have two things in common. The narrative revolves around women, and the narratives of each film, with the exception of Birds of Prey, exist within the past. I'm going to read that again, just in case you didn't catch how utterly stupid it is and how she basically destroys her own argument. She writes, most spectacularly, however, is that all of these female-led superhero films have two things in common. The narrative revolves around women, and the narratives of each film, with the exception of Birds of Prey, exist within the past. So, did you catch on? She wrecks her own argument in one sentence. It is truly amazing. Out of 4 films, one of them takes place in the present. Maybe there is a sample size problem. Maybe Wonder Woman is an ancient being whose origin takes place in the distant past. Maybe they set Captain Marvel in the recent past to fit her character into an ongoing narrative about a war against Thanos. And Black Widow is dead, so you kind of have to go backwards in order to tell her story, unless they wanted to do the multiple dimension hopping thing and then get into more of that time travel stuff, which I'm not really sure they really want to do, even though they have introduced it in Doctor Strange, and we're going to get Multiverse of Madness, and then obviously you had it all in Endgame. I'm not sure they want to do that with all of their characters, though. It could get really confusing. Nope. These couldn't be the reasons for having these films set in the past. It's sexism. Prince writes, the emotions elicited by nostalgia may be to blame for this almost trope-like execution, as well as the idea that it's easier to showcase sexism while dealing with it in the past, which, in of itself, is a problem. She might actually be onto something in that first phrase, but where she talks about nostalgia, that makes sense to me. I think she got it right there. But then she washes it down with a good dose of sexism. It couldn't be a nostalgia factor that makes shows like Stranger Things and Mad Men successful. Couldn't. Nope. Nope, not at all. Nope, it's sexism and misogyny. Prince writes one of the longest run-on sentences I've seen in a long time. So she writes, sure, it's easier to showcase a room full of men wondering why Diana Prince is speaking up when she's the only one who knows both Ottoman and Sumerian, but having sexism occur in superhero period pieces also gives younger audiences the idea that sexism and misogyny is a thing of the past when it truly isn't, which is what makes a similar scene in Captain Marvel ever so important, because it shows us that badass women aren't immune from the standard misogynistic micro and macroaggressions they face in their day-to-day lives. All right, I got to take a breath there. I told you it was one of the longest run-on sentences I've seen in a long time, and it was long. But I do think now is a good time to remember that this whole argument is moot, given Birds of Prey, which Ewan McGregor made abundantly clear was a film set in the present that intended to lecture its audience on their misogyny. But Prince isn't done performing her self-own. She actually explains why Captain Marvel is set in the past, and it has nothing to do with her grandstanding about sexism. It's truly hilarious. She writes, Captain Marvel, however, positions itself in the 90s, a decade that is experiencing a resurgence in our current cultural climate, which is most likely the reason why Captain Marvel's production team placed the film within that context. She literally wrote that. That's what she wrote. She's owning herself. I just can't believe this. How was this even published? So that's right. It has nothing to do with sexism. It's because there was a resurgence of interest in the decade. I'm going to theorize here, most likely due to people, aka millennials, being raised during the 90s. It's the nostalgia thing again. Funny how that happens. But Prince is determined to make it about sexism and misogyny. She then writes, quote, this makes Captain Marvel's feminism and critique of toxic masculinity a bit more relatable for women watching the film in 2019 and 2020. The microaggressions Carol Danvers faces in the film are placed in a time period that mirrors our current socio-political climate, which makes her battles with gross misogyny and sexism all the more relatable for women audiences now. Yep, that's right. Carol Danvers is battling misogyny and sexism in Captain Marvel. I think that was Brie Larson on the press tour. I don't think she actually watched Captain Marvel because I don't think Carol Danvers fought sexism and misogyny in the movie. I'm pretty sure she fought the Skrulls and later the Kree and the Supreme Intelligence. But according to Prince, it's misogyny and sexism and the dude who had his motorcycle stolen. But she's not done. She next claims, quote, however, the fact that women-led superhero films keep getting put in a past setting is problematic. Oh, that's a buzzword there. Problematic simply because it doesn't allow women superheroes to exist in the present day on their own. What in the actual F? What in the actual F? I mean, women superheroes have been existing in the present day in films for a very, very, very long time. If we just want to look at modern, recent history, Justice League, Batman vs. Superman, Dark Knight Rises, Infinity War, Endgame, Age of Ultron, Iron Man 2, Captain America, Winter Soldier, Captain America, Civil War, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man and the Wasp, the list goes on and on. All movies with female superheroes being superheroes in the present day. It's truly galling just how stupid this argument is. But it gets even better, laughably better. Setting women within these past narratives implies that these superheroes aren't part of our current world, or that when they are, they exist to help the men, which is obvious from that scene in Endgame. I think Black Widow in Avengers would like a word with you, Danny Prince. Scarlet Witch in Age of Ultron is amazed at your reality warping powers. This is truly and utterly stupid. The women were only fighting Thanos in order to help men. It couldn't be that they didn't want Thanos to kill them all. Nope, couldn't be. If you thought the cringe was over, you were wrong. Prince continues, quote, treating women as accessories sidelined to help further the plots of men is problematic. Oh, another buzzword. Same buzzword. Because it shelves so many incredible characters that have so much potential but are relegated to toxic tropes. Oh, there we go. We got that word toxic again. Like the femme fatale, the damsel in distress, the manic pixie dream girl, the broken bird, and more. The only one treating women as accessories is Prince. And it's likely because she hasn't even watched the MCU films, or if she did, she fell asleep during them. Which I mean, I think you can do, but if you're seeing them in theaters, I doubt you fell asleep during them. And Prince makes it abundantly clear that she actually didn't watch the films when she goes into a diatribe about her fears about the upcoming Black Widow film. So she writes, in The Winter Soldier, Black Widow reveals that she can outsmart an AI programmed by Arnim Zola, anticipate and counteract the Winter Soldier's fighting moves, and she can easily blend into populated spaces like a mall, which is showcased against Captain America's hyper-aware military training. She does not outsmart Arnim Zola. He brings down a warhead on the bunker. They literally almost die. I believe it's Captain America who gets them into, who shields them from the missile strike. As for Winter Soldier, she loses to him after attempting to counteract him. She tries to stun him and then runs off, and then he wounds her. I will give her credit that Widow was able to effectively evade detection with Captain America in that mall scene. So she at least watched that part. But then we get to the end of this article here. She finally concludes with a couple of other lies. So she says, audiences were unable to form an emotional connection to Black Widow, so that when she finally dies in Endgame, her sacrifice rings hollow, barely acknowledged by the people she considered family, and is eclipsed by Iron Man's death. There's a whole scene with Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch mourning Vision and Black Widow after Iron Man's funeral. Again, did you not watch the film? So then she says that Black Widow, quote, can't return to the silver screen in the present-day MCU again. Even if more Black Widow movies follow this one, she'll forever be relegated to the past. Yeah, she definitely did not watch Endgame. Gamora says hi, and would like to know how's it going, and why Star-Lord likes her. She really likes to know that. But like I said, this takes the cake for the wokest take of the day, and probably the wokest take of the week. It's complete and utter stupidity. It's never a good thing. My name is John Trent, and you've been watching Bounty in the Comics. Until next time.